Hello, I hope you're keeping well. If it's any consolation, the plague in my day lasted for 2 years and then recurred a couple of years later. So 6 months in the big picture, maybe not so bad. Well, we've got another plague-related question today, which I suppose is understandable in the circumstances, but it's with a bit of an international flavour. I've had a message from DT in DC. Hey you, my buddy Steve says you're the business. Well, why the hell can't I call it the Chinese virus, huh? I've read more elegantly expressed questions, but anyway, why can't we call it the Chinese virus? Now, there are two different ideas embodied in that phrase. The first, and the more reasonable, the more publicly acceptable argument, is that this is about origin, in the way that the plague in my day could have been called the Ethiopian virus, because that's where it appears to have started, but it wasn't. In fact, the Spanish influenza that I believe you endured further into your past, in fact, did not originate in Spain, but that was where it was first recognised. So that's not the best of arguments, really, is it? Rather, as the ideal historian should be, as the satirist Lucian once said, a man without a polis, a man without a country. So, in fact, a virus is a thing without a nationality. It doesn't respect borders, it doesn't belong to anywhere in particular. But of course, that's the other thing that's going on in that phrase, isn't it? It's not just about origin, it's about blame. Now, this is almost exactly what happened in the early stages of the plague in Athens. It began down in the port of Athens, in the Piraeus, which, of course, we could now say is quite understandable. It arrived by sea. But initially, people thought, aha, we know what's going on. The Spartans have poisoned the wells. This is why people are dying. Because everyone looks for an explanation, and everyone looks for someone to blame. Why is this happening? It must be enemy action. Now, Athens was at war with Sparta. You could perhaps imagine it, and it was actually quite quickly that the Athenians realised this could not be the case, when even people in the upper city, where they didn't rely on wells for their water, also started to die. So it becomes clear this is not in fact a case of sabotage. But it's still, the impulse is to identify a culprit. And that's what's happening. The Chinese virus is presented as someone's action. It's not a random event out of nowhere. It's not a natural occurrence, and it's not in any way our fault for having our, underfunded health services, for having too many international connections, for not being willing to accept restrictions until it's too late. No, this is the action of the enemy. Now, most reasonable people would see immediately that this is a casting around. It's not a serious attempt at exploring the origins of the occurrence, but it's the sort of thing that a crass populist would seek to do, to draw on people's understandable fear and anger and direct it in any direction other than themselves. Now, to his credit, the leader in my time, Pericles, well, he didn't blame the Spartans, he did blame the gods, he didn't blame himself in any way, although it was his policy that had everyone cooped up inside the city in unsanitary conditions. His successors as leader, I'm sure, would have been less scrupulous. So, why don't we call it the Spanish virus? In the same way that we don't call any virus by the name of someone we want to blame, because it's an abdication of responsibility to understand what's really going on.